Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
My fellow Virginians, earlier today I released a statement apologizing for behavior in my past that falls far short of the standard you set for me when you elected me to be your governor. I believe you deserve to hear directly from me. That photo and the racist and offensive attitudes it represents does not reflect that person I am today or the way that I have conducted myself as a soldier, a doctor, and a public servant. I am deeply sorry. I cannot change the decisions I made, nor can I undo the harm my behavior caused then and today. But I accept responsibility for my past actions, and I am ready to do the hard work of regaining your trust. I have spent the past year as your governor fighting for a Virginia that works better for all people. I am committed to continuing that fight through the remainder of my term and living up to the expectations you set for me when you elected me to serve. Thank you.
You're an idiot.
You are an idiot. I just, wow. I can't believe this. You know what this was? This was like the pastiest, whitest, like Caspery, white privilege weekend I've ever been through. And that includes the freaking Super Bowl. Really, what, Adam Levine, really? This was the halftime? I mean, Adam Levine, really? Somebody tell me, like any great memory that you ever had, and tell me the Maroon 5 song that was playing. Right, you can't, because Maroon 5 songs are like the same song, and you might think it was like this, This Girl Will Be Loved, or whatever the hell, or Moves Like Jack, because they're the same song, right? So, and what was the deal with, losing his clothes in the middle of the thing? The best part of the whole Super Bowl, and I mean the entire thing, it was the guac I made, and it was Big Boy, is what it was. Big Boy from Outkast. That because I love that voice. That voice. Ooh, that was like, really. And I know he was forced to talk through, rap a Maroon 5 song, which, really? Really, to keep it what? Super pasty? Listen, this whole thing. And can I just make this point about Ralph Northam? Last week we defended Ralph Northam because Ralph Northam was on a radio show, and they were trying to change a law in Virginia that requires that a woman who is going to die in childbirth, or a woman who is giving birth to a non-viable child, has to get the signature of 3 doctors, 3 of them, in order to survive that near-death experience for her or her child. And Ralph Northam was on some radio show, and because he's such a ham-fisted, ham-handed, now we know what his problem is. His problem is he's like, has no personality, is what it is. He has absolutely no personality. He is imbued with white privilege up to his freaking cheeks that are covered in shoe polish. But I defended him on the abortion thing because when he said, I'll tell you exactly, he was a neurological pediatrician, and so he said in the interview, I'll tell you exactly what happens when there's a child or that's not viable. The child is delivered. The child is made comfortable. If the parents want the child resuscitated, let's say the child is born without a brain, okay? They may say, there's really nothing we can do here, right? But the child would be resuscitated if the parents say, do whatever you can do. I don't care if it has no brain. I don't care if it has no face. I don't care if it has no lungs. Just do whatever. Breathe with a paper bag, something, anything. But that decision's left up to the parents. And then Ralph Northam says, and then after that, a discussion ensues. Now, of course, the freaks over at Fox decided that the discussion that ensues is a discussion to kill the child. And they Oh, that's not in here either. And they said it over and over and over and over and over again. Infanticide. But the conversation that ensues is about the prognosis and treatment. So I defended him on that score. And then he shows up in a yearbook. Mysteriously, all of a sudden, he says this thing, and the Fox News, infanticide, over and over and over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, some opposition research appears where Ralph Northam is in his medical yearbook as a 25-year-old adult, and there's a photo of a person in blackface standing next to a person in a KKK hood and full robe. And Ralph Northam issues this statement Friday night, and this is exactly what he said. Quote, "I am deeply sorry for the decision I made to appear as I did in this photo, and for the hurt that decision caused then and now." Now, all of a sudden, on Saturday, he gives this 43-minute cluster F of a press cut. Did you see? I don't know who saw it and who did. This thing went on and on and on for 43 freaking minutes. It was pouring rain here. I was supposed to get my hair blown out, okay? And I just actually stopped in front. I couldn't move. I just couldn't freaking move. And then, I was going down to my cousin Freddie. I was going down. Some of you know little Freddie. He used to be on my show on WIOD. But I was going to go down to Freddie's house. We were going to go meet up in his man cave. And, we were going to sit around, have drinks, and eat Greek food, right? And then, talk about what to do about the Super Bowl, which thank God, they, my cousins decided to, who needs it? But 43 minutes, Ralph Northam is on the TV, and he says, now listen, he said, "I am deeply sorry for the decision I made to appear as I did in this photo." And then Saturday, he gives this 43-minute cluster F of a press where he says he wants to use, face recognition technology to see if it is him. Listen, I got news for you. If you can't remember if you were ever in blackface, or if you see a photo of a person in blackface and there's even this much chance that could be you, how many times have you done blackface? That's more than once. I'll tell you that right now. That's more than once. That means that what you saw in that yearbook in 1984 means the civil rights movement wasn't over in the 60s, okay? Wasn't over in the mid-60s, wasn't over in 68, wasn't over in 64, wasn't over in 65. I mean, you're talking 1984, and this man is like, I'm sorry, I'm deeply sorry for the decision I made to appear as I did in this photo. I mean, how many times have you done it? How many times? It's very sick. I suggest he change parties because the Republicans would be very happy to defend him along with Steve King and our racist president. See, now that's why I wanted Perriello to win the Democratic primary. Remember that? You know who must feel like crap today? Perriello. I mean, Ralph Northam beat him, and this is what we ended up with. And by the way, Ralph Northam, he is a Republican in everything but name. Okay, this guy voted for W 2 times. This is the guy who, after Charlottesville, said, "Oh, it's not." And Charlottesville, remember, was about Confederate monuments. It was about this Robert E. Lee statue, and they were going to tear it down. And that's why all these white supremacists ran to Charlottesville, Virginia, right? That's why they were there. And then the president made this, there were fine people on both sides, okay, so what did Ralph Northam have to say about that in Charlottesville, Virginia? People were saying, well, it's a state issue. Oh, Northam said, no, it's not a state issue. It's a local issue. Oh, talk about kicking the can further down the road. It's not just, it's not a federal issue. It's not a state issue. Oh, it's a local issue. Just ask the people of Charlottesville. And Perriello was like, take them all down. This is ridiculous. Richmond is the capital of the Confederacy. And, we need to actually get straight on this history. And Blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, change parties. The GOP would defend you. They defend Steve Bannon. They defend Steve King. All the Steves. All the Steves and all the Millers. They defend all of them, okay? So just, you're in the wrong party is what it is. And then he's like, and I'm like, you can't apologize because you were caught. What kind of thing is that? That's what a child does. You can't apologize like to your wife for having an affair because you got caught. You have to apologize before you get caught. You have to break it off, sit down, tell her you broke her trust. It ain't going on. You can't wait to get caught. That's like a lily-livered, white, privileged attitude towards blackface. I mean, and obviously this was opposition research because of the abortion thing. There is no question in my mind. He was set up. He got set up. Bitch set him up. No question. No question in my mind that's why. But what they found, holy crap-a-mola. Damn. How many times have you done it?
When my staff showed me the photo in question yesterday, I was seeing it for the first time. I did not purchase the EVMS yearbook, and I was unaware of what was on my page.
Oh, my God.
When I was confronted with the images yesterday,
yeah,
I was appalled that they appeared on my page.
And I thought it was
me.
me.
I believe then and now that I am not either of the people in that photo.
Now he believes it, but the day before, it could have been him. He believed that it could be him. You know what I'm saying? If you thought it could be you, then it doesn't matter if it was or not. And people are like, oh, because later he's going to say, you know, he did impersonate Michael Jackson once. Can I just point out you don't need to be in blackface to impersonate Michael Jackson? In fact, it's bad form to be in blackface when you impersonate Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson was as white as me.
I stand by my statement of apology to the many Virginians who were hurt by seeing this content on a yearbook page that belongs to me. It is disgusting. It is offensive.
Yes.
It is racist.
And it's you.
And it was my responsibility to recognize and prevent it from being published in the first place. I recognize that many people will find this difficult to believe. The photo appears with others I submitted on a page with my name on it. Even in my own statement yesterday, I conceded that, based on the evidence presented to me at the time, the most likely explanation that it was indeed me in the photo. In the hours since I made my statement yesterday, I reflected with my family and classmates from the time and affirmed my conclusion that I am not the person in that photo.
It doesn't matter. What matters is you thought it could be you, which means you've done this. It means you've done this. It means that you went to, listen, everybody, this is like, you know why this is like a, this is like a little trip down recent memory lane in that now you're starting to see what elite white boys do in their elite schools, like Kavanaugh, with the clubs he belonged to, and with Squee and the drinking and the fan club for this girl, right? But they didn't mean any this is, I mean, now we're starting to get to see what goes on in white boy land in these elite little schools, and how in the hell did this medical school allow a yearbook like that to get published in the first place in 1984? Please spare me. You thought it was you, but then upon reflection, you made some phone calls and they go, "No, that was Squee." Do you know what I mean? But you thought it was you, which means it could have been you because you've done it. With somebody standing next to you in a Ku Klux. He was very clear that he wasn't wearing the KKK outfit. That he knew. You know why he knew? Because he never wore a KKK outfit. That's why he knew. But the blackface, not so sure. Know why not so sure? Because he's done it before. And not as Michael Jackson in a dance contest, but standing next to a guy wearing a Klan outfit. That's the crap that goes on in white boy school. I swear to God, I mean, it was like... big boy, you got to call up these dudes. It's just your gravelly voice alone will convince them that they're on the wrong path. I love him.
Thanks, Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It's done in cases where there may be severe deformities. There may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. Mm-hmm. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
See, this man, he is so pasty white and flat that, you know, the conversation that would ensue is about prognosis and treatment, obviously. But, oh, man, did Fox News grab onto this guy.
This is a piece of legislation that legalizes infanticide.
This is very scary.
These are infanticide bills.
Infanticide. Legalized infanticide.
Some might call it infanticide.
What that doctor is talking about, or that governor is talking about, is when you deliver the baby, then they make a decision.
That's infanticide.
It is.
The governor of Virginia has just told us in public on camera that it's okay to kill a child after the child has been born. That used to be called infanticide, not rhetorically, but literally infanticide.
According to now New York State, you can get an abortion in the 7th month of pregnancy, the 8th month of pregnancy, and the 9th month of pregnancy.
Okay, you get it? You get it? This goes on for 3 minutes. I could play you this. There's a mashup of all the times they said infanticide from last week, okay? From last week. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, on Friday night, boom, Ralph Northam in blackface. Somebody's doing opposition research, goes through his yearbooks, and finds it. The sick thing is, they find it. So yes, he has to now go. Period, end of story. And he needs more time, he says today. He needs more time. What do you need more time for? You had since 1984. You could have said something. You could have told people. You could have made amends. You could have apologized. You could have brought it up yourself. See, that's why this doesn't, this apology. And then he backtracks after the apology. But he was not talking about infanticide, okay? He was talking about a discussion of a prognosis and treatment options for a child who was born with incredible, debilitating birth defects like no brain, like cyclopsis, which is just one big eyeball in the middle, and it happens. And they decide, oh, he's talking about, we're gonna stab the baby on the altar of Satan right there in the hallowed halls of the hospital ER. Oh, please. Nobody is saying that, but this is what happened to him. The sad part is they could find him in blackface enough times that he can't be sure if it's him or not in his freaking yearbook. And by the way, this guy went to VMI. Oh, God. This guy, this Northam, went to Virginia Military, and in that yearbook, his nickname, I can't even say it, is a racial slur. His nickname, that's what they called him, a racial slur. And he said, no, they call me that sometimes, but really they called me Goose. But yeah, sometimes they called me that. What the F, man? Now, you know how he became governor? He was Terry McAuliffe's lieutenant governor. Why? Why did Terry McAuliffe pick a Democrat in name only? Because Terry McAuliffe needed those votes in rural Virginia, in Southern Virginia, and this guy had a on-paper record of being at VMI and of being an Army doctor. And I don't even understand how he's an Army doctor. He was an Army doctor during Desert Storm, and he was doing emergency medicine in Germany for airlifted soldiers. And he's a pediatrician. I don't even get it. I don't even understand it. This whole person just flips me out. He votes for W twice, isn't sorry. It says Charlottesville is a local. No, Terry McAuliffe picked him because he was from rural Virginia and he had an on paper that looked like a good thing. That's why. But McAuliffe, he's called for him to resign now because Terry McAuliffe will have 3 drinks and change his mind about you. That's just who Terry McAuliffe is. But honestly, this man walked right into this trap. I swear to God, right into it. Because he's just, that, my friends, is what white privilege looks like, sounds like, smells like, tastes like. That is it. That is what it is. If you never understood it before, that man, that right there. Well, I believe that I need to apologize. I am deeply sorry for the decision I made to appear as I did in this photo. And then the very next day, I believe now and then that I am not either of the people in this photo. If you could think for just a brief instant that that was you in that photo, then you've done it. And you've done it more than once. And that is the truth. Then he tries to say, well, I did do it once, but it was for a dance contest, and I dressed up like Michael Jackson, does anybody think you need blackface to be Michael Jackson? Can I just say that?
I dressed up in a, what's his name? The singer? Michael Jackson, excuse me.
Yeah, you're such a fan.
That's why I had Pam with me.
Pam.
I had the shoes, I had a glove, and I used just a little bit of shoe polish to put under on my cheeks. And the reason I used a very little bit is because I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but you cannot get shoe polish off. But it was a dance contest.
My God.
I had always liked Michael
God.
Jackson. I actually won the contest because I had learned how to do the moonwalk. But then let me tell you what happened, Alan. I have a very close friend who was my assistant during the campaign. I don't think he would mind me telling you his name. His name is Seth Opoku-Yeboah. And during some of our long rides around the Commonwealth, the very issue of blackfacing came up.
Oh, my God. He turned it into a verb. Blackfacing. Seriously. He's campaigning with some guy in his car, and the issue of blackfacing came up. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why it came up. Probably because you knew that there were photos out there of you in blackface. Blackfacing. He turned it into a verb. Holy, oh, sweet baby Jesus. Mother of Mary. Holy crap, man. Really, and check out what else he said in this thing. Swear to God, you want to hear white privilege? Okay, this is just, this is amazing. He said, quote, I could spare myself from the difficult path that lies ahead. See, baby, that is white privilege. I got to tell you, that I could spare myself because apologizing for wearing blackface and turning blackfacing into a word, a verb, an actual activity. Oh, my God. I could spare myself having to apologize. I could spare myself. Oh, Jesus. He said, I could spare myself from the difficult path that lies ahead. I can avoid an honest conversation about harmful actions from my past. I cannot in good conscience choose the path that would be easier for me in an effort to duck my responsibility to reconcile. Well, do it as a private citizen, okay? Go and do the Northam, no tour or something like that. Get Big Boy to agree to be in a room with you. I doubt it. Go on tour with Outkast. I mean, honestly, how could you say I could spare myself? Holy crap. Do you understand how? And the reason why, for those of you who are too young or not racist enough, the reason why blackface is so heinous, it's like, let's say you're a Jew and somebody, draws your face with a giant nose or a rat face with a giant nose. That's why. It's to mock. It's to make fun of. It's to dehumanize, to make into an animal or vermin, or just to laugh at and pull out all the stereotypical bad traits that you imagine each and every Jew has. That's what blackface is. It's mockery. It's offensive as all get out. And by 1984, oh my God, okay. Everybody knows that. And everybody has called for this guy to resign. He's still there. He's still freaking there.
And he really did a good job communicating to me why that's so offensive. And it was actually during that conversation, I said, you know, Seth, I put some polish on my face. I competed in a dance contest dressed up as Michael Jackson. And I said, I assume you probably would think that's offensive. He said, I would. And I said, you know what, Seth? I appreciate you being open with me. I apologize for what I've done in the past, and I can promise you I'll never do that again.
This man contradicted himself for 43 minutes. It was such a cluster. This was like the worst press now, Trump has press conferences that are off the hook, totally woo out there. He calls people rapists and murderers and drug traffickers and human traffickers. He uses Sicario Dea the Soldado as truth, because he's a racist. That is just a fact. This guy doesn't understand that he is too, because he's so imbued with this white privilege thing. Well, I have black friends. In fact, I guess that person he named was, you know, a person of color. I don't know. And he confessed his sins about Michael Jackson. You know, this photo was not Michael Jackson. This photo was not you in a dance contest. This was a photo of a person with shiny shoe polish all over their face, standing next to somebody dressed in a KKK outfit, and you thought it could have been you. Because it could have. Because you've done that before. Not the Michael, you've done that before. And that's probably why in your VMI yearbook, they called you a racial slur. I think you're obsessed with it. And you have never, ever, ever apologized. Not until you got caught. And if you're sitting in a car campaigning with a guy and you confess to him that that exists, and then on Friday, when somebody does opposition research on you because they think you're a baby killer, which is just so sick, but that is why this happened, but they found it, and you say that you're sorry for the way you dressed in that photo, then you've done it before. And you got to go. I'm so sorry. It has to be the ultimate punishment. That kind of stuff has to be zero tolerance. Period. End of story. Christian in the Bronx.
Hey, Randy, a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh.
I agree the governor of Virginia has to go.
Bye-bye.
At the same time, I'm very frustrated because if Democrats have the energy to send all this stuff to him to get him to resign, then why can't they impeach Trump today for the State of the Union?
Wait a minute.
And
stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
I'm in a music mood because it was Maroon 5 yesterday, really. Is that music? No.
It's music.
It's not music. I know Howard likes it too, but you know Howard is a pasty white boy who does the two-step overbite. That's it. That's the extent of it. But anyway, how do you know the Dems did it? I'm almost 100% sure that this was opposition research that was done by the Republicans after spending an entire 48-hour period saying that he was for infanticide.
No, I agree with that. It's just that, you know, I think Trump is so much worse, and it's so obvious.
He is. He is.
And it just seems to me Nancy Pelosi should be, you know, impeaching him, and if the Senate doesn't convict him, she should impeach him again and keep impeaching him and with every little thing that comes out from Robert Mueller, because this is ridiculous. I mean, he's got to go. I mean, the Republican governor is bad, and he's got to go too, but, I mean, the order of magnitude is just so much greater in the White House.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like the Democrats, even now that they have power in one house, are really doing everything that they can do to, you know, get rid of this guy.
Well, you can't impeach somebody for being a racist, but he, you know, obviously the president is the racist in chief. He's the liar in chief. He's the racist in chief. He's the colluder in chief. He's the traitor in chief. I mean, that is who he is. But they want that Mueller report because they want the actual evidence. They want to be able to do a slam dunk and get 2/3 of the Senate to agree with them, because that's what it's going to take to remove him. Otherwise, it's just.
I think if they wait.
Otherwise, it becomes Benghazi. It just becomes the Benghazi thing for 3 freaking years, and then nothing at the end. And that actually makes people vote the other way.
Well, if they wait, for all this evidence, but the problem is he's going to pull more crap. Okay.
Oh, you want to hear the crap he's going to pull? You want to hear what I believe is coming?
What do you believe is coming?
Okay. Tomorrow is the State of the Union.
Yep.
I believe that if I don't know, he's so lazy and the guy is the laziest mofo I have ever seen in the presidency, okay? And now we have the records to prove it. Axios came out with his schedule. He does nothing. He does nothing all day, every day. All right, that said, if he's not that lazy and he sees that, it's going to require a little more work on his part, I think he might declare a national emergency at the State of the Union tomorrow. And if he does, that's the end of democracy, because what that means is the president can spend money that was appropriated by Congress for other things wherever and whenever he wants. Now, it will get litigated and it will go to the courts, but that's the end of democracy if he becomes this unitary executive who we don't have a Senate. Mitch McConnell is. I
agree.
Mitch McConnell is a lazy damn dog too. He just lays down. He does absolutely nothing. The president hasn't appointed. We have an acting this and an acting that and a blah 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 and all that, and we're violating the law at this point, because you can only be enacting for 300 days during the first year of a presidency, and then after that 210 days. And we have people that have been serving as acting longer than that. So the president already violated the law. You would think the Senate would give a rat's ass, since they're the ones who are supposed to confirm these people, that Mitch McConnell would be, making a noise. But oh no, because he's got something to hide too. So if he then declares a national emergency, then the House is gone as far as the co-equal branch of government. They have no role to play either. And that's the end of democracy. And if he does that Tuesday night, I want everybody to start to think about where they're going to go and when they're going to go.
Well, you're making my point that they should impeach him today.
Well, it doesn't happen like that. The process is a long process. First, the Judiciary Committee has to write the articles, then the articles have to be voted out of the committee and onto the full floor. Then they have to be debated, and then you're going to have people trying to shut down debate, and there will be a vote for that. It doesn't go like that. It's a long process.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
You're saying now you expect to declare a national...
I don't want to say, but you'll hear the State of the Union, and then you'll see what happens right after the State of the Union, okay?
Have you privately decided whether or not you will declare a national emergency? And just to clarify...
Have I privately, what's in my mind? Well, I'm certainly thinking about it.
You're thinking ahead?
I think there's a good chance that we'll have to do that. But we will, at the same time, be building, regardless, we're building wall, and we're building a lot of wall, but I could do it a lot faster the other way.
Are you saying that we should be prepared for you to announce at the State of the Union what you are going to do?
Well, I'm saying listen closely to the State of the Union. I think you'll find it very exciting.
This could be it, really. It could be it. If the president takes unto himself these enormous powers of Congress and decides that the executive alone, he alone can fix it, that if that's real in his head, and, he thinks that Congress is a useless piece of crap, and he shouldn't have to go and get appropriations from them, that the power of the purse, which belongs to them, shouldn't. And in his mind, because it shouldn't belong to them, he will declare a national emergency and take that power for himself. Now, he would have to work. I don't know if he's. I'm hoping that he's so lazy. I'm hoping that he's so used to watching television and golfing and doing nothing else with his day that he won't take those powers because he knows that's a lot of work. To be a dictator, to be an authoritarian dictator, which is what that would be. That is what that would be, where the Senate is laid down. The Senate doesn't exist, right? The Senate doesn't confirm the Senate because he doesn't put any nominees forward. The Senate doesn't do anything. Only judges. Only judges. That's what Mitch McConnell wants, judges. That send me judges and we'll confirm them, even if they're Kavanaugh, even if they, hang out with Squee, and even if they, form lines, and even if they're so blackout drunk that they can't remember if they were part of a train. They can't remember if they gang raped a girl. The girl can remember, but he can't, so therefore he's innocent, right? That man could sit on the Supreme Court is so frightening to me, because if the president takes these awesome powers that Congress has, co-equal branches of government, and he takes those powers for himself, it will go to another co-equal branch, which is the judiciary. And if Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, to pin your hopes on a decent interpretation of the constitutional co-equal branches of government section of the Constitution that put Congress first, Article 1 is Congress, 2 is the presidency, 3 is the judiciary. That if Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, say, oh no, president could do whatever he wants, like Karen, she could do, Janice Rossi, she could do whatever she wants, right? If that's the president, and they go along with this because they're capos, and our future literally depends on an Alito or a Roberts doing the right thing, we're kind of screwed. We're kind of screwed. And the fact that he keeps on signaling that this is what he might do tells me either it's another empty threat of his because he realizes he would have to work. And I don't see him as a worker. I see him as somebody who tells everyone to do this, 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 and this. And if you don't do it the way I like it, then you're fired, except to get somebody else to even do that part, right? I don't see him being a worker bee, but he keeps on saying that, we should listen to the State of the Union. We should listen carefully. We might find it exciting. I don't know.
We will be looking at a national emergency because I don't think anything's going to happen. I think the Democrats don't want border security.
Oh, my God.
And when I hear them talking about the fact that walls are immoral and walls don't work, they know they work. I watched somebody being interviewed the other day by a very good anchor. And the anchor actually was getting angrier and angrier as they tried to explain how a wall doesn't really have that much of an impact. And yet thousands of people are on one side of the wall and nobody's on the other side of the wall. It was actually laughable and really horrible in the same breath. So that's the way it is. If you look at El Paso, if you look at certain places, but El Paso was one of the most dangerous cities in the whole country.
What?
Once the wall was completed, it became one of the safest immediately. It wasn't like it took 5 years. Some of you know this. Immediately, it became one of the safest cities in the whole country. So we're building the wall. A lot of it is, the chant now should be finish the wall as opposed to build the wall, because we're building a lot of wall. And
he's not building any wall.
6 months ago, we really started going to town because I could see we're getting nowhere with the Democrats. We're not going to get anywhere with them. It's going to be a part of their campaign, but I don't think it's good politically. And I think Nancy Pelosi should be ashamed of herself because she's hurting a lot of people. I think the Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. Now, in all fairness to the Democrats, many of them want the wall, and I see it. They're just dying to say what they want to say, but they can't say it as well as they would be able to if they were allowed to do it.
Everything he said there was a lie. Everything he said there was a lie. There was nothing there that was true. Absolutely nothing. You have Mike Vigil. There was a great article in the Washington Post last week. We didn't really get. But, this guy, Mike Vigil, would know more than anybody about border security because he was the former head of international operations at the DEA. 3 years as an undercover agent infiltrating drug cartels in Colombia, and 13 years doing the same thing in Mexico. This guy posed as a drug trafficker and won the confidence of drug lords. He was nearly killed, taking down the Guadalajara cartel and on and on. His friend, who he served with, was murdered and tortured, a fellow DEA agent. You would think this guy, would be a guy to understand the southern border and the situation because he lived in it for decades. And his statement to the Washington Post was, why would you want to toss billions of dollars on a useless project that would have absolutely zero impact? Zero impact. It's not going to stop anything. They tunnel, they punch holes, they'll put French doors on a stain and stained glass in any wall he builds. They'll fly over it. I'm telling you, if you sliced open our desert there, if you sliced open the desert in West Texas, or if you sliced open the desert between, Arizona and Mexico, it would look like Swiss cheese. Because there's tunnels all under there, under the freaking walls. El Chapo, they just started jury deliberation today. I would tell you to just go read something about this trial, because you know who brought down El Chapo? This is hysterical to me. His IT guy. It's always the IT guy. Yeah, his IT guy. He had all the communications. He had all the phone records. He had all the conversation. He was recording everything. That was his insurance plan. So the IT guy is the guy that, got El Chapo extradited to New York. It's unbelievable. But anyway, if you took a giant knife and you sliced it across the 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border, you'd see nothing but tunnels. Riddled with tunnels. That's what's there. So they asked this guy whether or not, dispersing, billions of dollars is a cost-effective way to deal with anything that the president seems to care about, drug trafficking, human whatever. By the way, most women that are trafficked, human trafficking in the United States, guess what they are? Guess what they are? Americans. Yeah, just thought I'd tell you that. But he said no. He said with Trump's wall, the answer is clearly a resounding no. He said we need drones and ground sensors that are attended so that you can hear when they're tunneling. You'll get us, everybody will know that there's work going on below the wall. You need better camera systems, just to name a few. And he said, and also the base salary of Border Patrol agents is $40,511. Of course they're going to be bribable. And he said the $5.7 billion you want to spend on the stupid wall that is, they'll go over, they'll put stained glass in the wall, they'll put French doors in the wall, they'll go under, they'll go over, they'll go whatever. Because it's $1 billion enterprise. They had logistics people testifying at El Chapo. They had IT guys. Are you freaking kidding me? He's making it sound like it's like some 15-year-old boy from Salvador. No, it's El Chapo. It's the Guadalajara cartel. It's the Zeta cartel. The Sinaloa cartel. These are freaking businessmen. And we got him. We got him. That's our businessman. He's so stupid. But he says you want to spend $5.7 billion, give it to the border. Do something about screening these guys better. Do something about paying them better so they're not, open for bribes. Because they when the drugs do come through, they come through the ports of entry, and people go, okay. So the lobbyists told us that all X trucks can come through. All X trucks can come through. And another Border Patrol guy will tell the cartels, so here's the thing. The Customs and Border Patrol guys, they were told that all X brand trucks can come through. So when we pack that truck with the cucumbers, put your load in the middle of the queue. We need dogs, for God's sake. And that's what this guy, Mike Vigil, said. His same thing. He said our resources are stretched so thin that they can only pursue about 20% of the leads that are generated by U.S. intelligence. And he also talked about spending money on the Coast Guard, for God's sake. Who didn't get paid in the shutdown? Freaking Coast Guard. And he says you got to focus on the drivers. The drivers that come across the ports of entry, the legal ports of entry. Drivers. That's how they get here. Driving through the legal ports of entry. Just saying. This is all so stupid. But if he does this tomorrow, time to freak. Seriously. Everybody always says, when will we know? When will we know? I'm telling you. I'm always looking for something like an enabling act. I'm always looking for somebody to dissolve the Congress. This is what Maduro did, okay? It's exactly what he did. It's what Mussolini did. This is what Adolf did, okay? It's what Twitler is thinking about doing. And if he takes the powers of a co-equal branch of government known as Congress, who have the power of the purse, who have given him, you know, it's so funny, he goes, we're building wall. We built wall with the cash on hand. We built wall with the money they gave us. That money that they get, you know, last year they appropriated like $1.6 billion to Donald Trump. And this year they appropriated like $1.3 billion to Trump for border security. But in that piece of legislation, it literally forbids any nickel, any dime, any penny from being spent on a stupid wall. So the lie that he's telling, that he's building wall with the cash on hand, the cash that they gave him, he needs to be impeached if that would be true. It's just not true, and that's why you can't impeach him for breaking the law, because he didn't do it. There's no new wall being built. We'll tell you what he did today, and this scares the bejesus out of me. We could talk about it in the next hour, but I just wanted to get all this out, because this is major, major crap if it happens. I mean, big, huge, major. Earth rattling, earth shifting, you know, like the skies will open and the angels will cry, okay? That's what will happen if he does this. But I'm telling you right freaking now, be very, 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 very much on your guard. Be very aware of tomorrow night. If he declares a national emergency, of course the courts will step in immediately. You'll see. But this man today is sending almost 5,000 troops, service members, down to the southern border, supposedly to spread concertina wire, which is a waste of hundreds of millions of dollars to deploy them like that, to do that. But he is moving troops. He is moving troops. Now, he lied and he said they were all going to come home for Christmas, and that was... No, he left about 2,000 of them there. Now he's moving another almost 5,000 to the border. Go check me out. Go look it up. Go Google it. Ahead of the State of the Union tomorrow night, where he is threatening, which means nothing because everything he says is worthless, but he's threatening to take away from Congress its power to appropriate money and give that power to himself. That would be the end of Congress. It would be the end of it. They would be hobbled. Committees would still operate, etc. But you know what? He could actually take away their pay. He could take away their money. He could dissolve Congress. You let him have the power of the House. Obviously Mitch McConnell is handing him the Senate voluntarily, which is sick and sad, and Kentucky really ought to do something about him in 2020, because Mitch McConnell will be on the ballot in 2020. But be forewarned about tomorrow.
Mary had a little the fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
You had quite the showdown with Speaker Pelosi. What did you learn about negotiating with her?
Well, I think that she was very rigid, which I would expect, but I think she's very bad for our country.
Oh, my God.
She knows that you need a barrier. She knows that we need border security. She wanted to win a political point. I happen to think it's very bad politics because basically she wants open borders. She doesn't mind human trafficking, or she wouldn't do this because
she offered you over $1 billion for border security.
Excuse me?
She offered over $1 billion for border security. She doesn't want the wall.
She's costing the country hundreds of billions of dollars because what's happening is when you have a porous border and when you have drugs pouring in and when you have people dying all over the country because of people like Nancy Pelosi,
who don't want to give proper border security for political reasons.
Nancy.
She's doing a terrible disservice to our country.
Oh my God.
And on the 15th, we have now set the table beautifully because everybody knows what's going on because of the shutdown. People that didn't have any idea, they didn't have a clue as to what was happening, they now know exactly what's happening. They see human trafficking. They see drugs and gangs and criminals pouring in. Now, we catch them because we're doing a great job. But if we had proper border security, we wouldn't have to work so hard, and we could do an even better job. And I think Nancy Pelosi is doing a terrible disservice to the people of our country. But
you're still going to have to deal with her, though.
No, she can keep playing her games, but we will win because we have a much better issue.
Oh my God! It's about a political issue. There he says it, and this Face the Nation interview. But you're still gonna have to deal with Nancy Pelosi. No, let her play her games, and I'll just take her power away. This is a coup. I mean, if he does this national emergency thing tomorrow, and it flies in the face of what every person who's ever been involved in the drug cartels, who's ever been involved in the DEA, law enforcement aspect of it, or even the actual, Border Patrol agents who say there are tunnels all over the place. You build a wall, they'll put French doors on it. You build a wall, they'll fly over it. You build a wall, they'll put stained glass windows on it. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, with IT guys, logistics guys, you're out of your freaking mind with your stupid wall idea. We need dogs, and we need drones, and we need the Coast Guard to intercept these. You need people underground. You need people with sensors that know when people are actually drilling holes in the desert. Oh, this is so sick. It is so frightening. But if he does this, if he declares a national emergency, we're kind of cooked. Now, I believe in the end, democracy will win. I believe in the end, the court will not allow it. I mean, Gorsuch, I don't know. Kavanaugh, definitely, he's an ass licker, and he owes everything to this man, this orange menace. So, but it will be trying. It will be scary. It will be very scary. I mean, really scary. It will be the closest we ever got to seeing a coup in this country. Now, that could be what's going on in Virginia, too. A coup. It could be. Why? Well, Northam actually had these photos available, right? And this was all opposition research that was, unleashed on him as soon as they tried to change the law in Virginia from a woman needing 3 doctors to opine about whether or not to save her life in childbirth to 1 doctor. That was the whole big thing. Change it from 3 doctors have to sign off to 1 doctor has to sign off. And Northam sat on that radio show, and they decided to say that he was about killing babies on the altar of Satan. And then they went after him with this research, this opposition research, right? So now the lieutenant governor is next in line. This is a guy named Justin Fairfax. Justin Fairfax would only be the 2nd African-American governor of Virginia, okay? Doug Wilder was the first. He would be the 2nd African-American governor of Virginia. And guess what? The GOP won't have it. They don't want it. They don't need it. And so now, all of a sudden, while I'm talking to you, a story is published on Big League Politics that says that Justin Fairfax sexually assaulted a woman in law school. Yeah. He sexually assaulted a woman, and he can't be the replacement for Northam. He can't be the successor, which means it would be the Speaker of the House in Virginia, who is a Republican. His name's Bill Howell. And go look at him. He's like an old Southern Republican Virginian. So we may be living through, a coup in Virginia, which would be small-ish. And then tomorrow night, we'll see what the hell happens to this country, the whole thing. Only I can fix it. Remember I told you, be very afraid of this guy. This guy is a lunatic. And, over the weekend, he said, his intelligence chiefs, obviously on Friday, he said they were mischaracterized. and they came to him and they said, you know, this hours-long testimony that they gave under oath on television, on C-SPAN, on all the networks, that was covered wall to wall where you could see their testimony.
We currently assess that North Korea will seek to retain its WMD capabilities and is unlikely to completely give up its nuclear weapons and production capabilities.
Is it the IC's assessment that this country's adversaries continue to use U.S. social media platforms as a vehicle for weaponizing disinformation and spreading foreign influence in the United States? Director Wray?
Yes, that's certainly the FBI's assessment. Not only have the Russians continued to do it in 2018, but we've seen indication that they're continuing to adapt their model and that other countries are taking a very interested eye in that approach.
Is Iran currently abiding by the terms of the JCPOA in terms of their nuclear activities?
Yes, they're making some preparations that would increase their ability to take a step back if they make that decision. So at the moment, technically, they're in compliance.
Well,
okay, so that went on for hours and hours, right? Iran is in compliance with the nuclear deal, even though the United States pulled out. The rest of the world is enforcing it. And as long as Iran doesn't make effort to take any action to enrich uranium or build centrifuges or, you know, do anything that's prohibited in the deal that Trump took us out of, right? Then they're free to do business. They testified that Russia is still, you know, playing games inside the United States, hacking and, you know, spreading false messaging and fake news and all that crap. And, you know, they talked about the fact that North Korea is never going to give up its dream of having a nuclear weapon, no matter what the president says. President called that fake news, as you know.
Mr. President, did you talk to your intelligence chiefs today about the displeasure you had with their testimony?
I did, and they said that they were totally misquoted and they were totally, it was taken out of context. So what I do is I'd suggest that you call them. They said it was fake news, so which frankly
we just ran exactly what they said to Congress.
It didn't surprise me at all. But we're here to talk right now about China.
There's something really wrong with him, okay? And then he sat down on Sunday for a Sunday show interview, and he was asked the question about whether or not he trusts his intelligence chiefs. And he basically said they're always wrong, and I don't have to listen to them.
Iraq. It was a big mistake to go. One of the great.
Oh, wait. This is the best one. And that North Korea, they could have a deal with North Korea. He doesn't believe his intelligence chiefs. There could be a deal in North Korea. And he said, as a real estate guy, honestly, North Korea was such a great location. It was such a great location.
If you remember, before I became president, it looked like we were going to war with North Korea.
It did not.
Now we have a very good relationship. The hostages are back. Okay? The remains are starting to come back. The remains of our Korean War veterans,
But
these
your
great
intelligence
people.
chief testified this week that Kim Jong-un is still very unlikely to give up his nuclear weapons program.
That's what the intelligence chief thinks. And I think
Why
there's
is he
a
wrong?
good possibility of that, too. But there's also a very good chance that we will make a deal. I think he's also tired of going through what he's going through. He has a chance to have North Korea be a tremendous economic behemoth. It has a chance to be one of the great economic countries in the world. He can't do that with nuclear weapons, and he can't do that on the path they're on now. I like him. I get along with him great. We have a fantastic chemistry.
Oh, my God.
We have had tremendous correspondence that some people have seen and can't even believe it. They think it's historic.
No one's seen it.
And we'll see what happens. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to make a deal, but certainly I think we have a very good chance of making a deal. And one of the reasons is because North Korea has a chance, being located between Russia, China, and South Korea. What a location. I'm in the real estate business. What a location.
That is a sick freak, okay? That is a really strange man. Kim Jong-un starves his own people. Kim Jong-un, almost half of his country lives in some sort of a camp, a freezing freaking camp, okay? Starving his own people to build this freaking nuclear weapon. And he says, I'm a real estate guy. What a great location. That is such an awesome location. And then this little gem should scare the bejesus out of you, too. It did me. They asked him on Face the Nation, why does he have all these acting? Okay, we don't have a Secretary of Defense. We don't have a Veterans Affairs Secretary. And he said, oh, I love our veterans. You know, he says he likes acting because he's freer to move the way he wants to move. No one can hold him accountable. No one can hold him responsible.
Do you have an acting AG until you get Barr confirmed?
Yes.
You get an acting defense secretary, an acting chief of staff, an acting interior secretary.
It's easier to make moves when they're acting.
So you are going to shake up?
Some, and some not. Some are doing a fantastic job. Really, I like acting because I can move so quickly. Gives me more flexibility. But actually, some of the names you mentioned, they're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, my God. We lost our Secretary of Defense because Mattis said he wouldn't pull out of Syria so fast. And ISIS wasn't destroyed, and that they are in guerrilla warfare mode, and they still plot and plan operations all over the world. But there's nobody to hold him accountable. That's why he doesn't have anybody who's Senate confirmed at the Department of Defense. He doesn't have anybody who's Senate confirmed at the Pentagon. He doesn't have a Senate confirmed Attorney General. He doesn't have a Senate confirmed Secretary of Interior. He doesn't have, and he likes it because he feels he's unchecked in his power. Wow, that's only I can fix it.
Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
For years, Russia has violated the terms of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty without remorse. To this day, Russia remains in material breach of its treaty obligations not to produce, possess, or flight test a ground-launched intermediate-range cruise missile system with a range between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. Russia has refused to take any steps to return real and verifiable compliance over these 60 days. The United States will therefore suspend its obligations under the INF Treaty effective February 2nd.
Oh, my God. So we're out of the INF Treaty, too. We're out of a nuclear proliferation treaty with Russia also. Now, how do you punish somebody who violates a nuclear arms deal? Apparently, the answer is sanctions, right? We did it with Iran, and then the world, John Kerry, everybody, got together, and they said, okay, Iran, here's what we do. If you give up your love of the centrifuge, then we'll send you back all the money that this world has kept frozen for all these years. Your money that we have, we'll give it back to you, and we'll lift some sanctions if you agree to stop proliferating. And they said yes. Trump pulled us out of that agreement. And I really do think he wants to hit Iran, because I think this all comes out of Netanyahu's crazy brain, that somehow a Holocaust, a second one, would somehow solve a problem for Israel. I don't know how. I can't imagine that war is ever the answer. Nuclear war? Huh. I mean, think about the natural conclusion of this. Now, Iran and Russia are aligned together, and so they just gave Russia permission to build ground-based nuclear weapons again by pulling out of the treaty. This is so sick. This is so twisted. This is so backwards. This is so bizarre. This is so... I mean, these treaties have been in place since the 80s, and we haven't had any nuclear wars. We haven't had any nuclear attacks. Oh, this is some sick time we live in. This is some crazy, crazy crap. And instead of enforcing, very strict sanctions on Russia for violating a treaty, they take Russia out of the... We're not, you're free to go. How does that make any sense to anybody? How do you hold somebody to account if you just violate the treaty that holds them to account and gives them free reign to do whatever the hell they want without ever being accountable to the world for sanctions? I don't get it. I don't understand this man. And his freaking foreign policy is bizarre. I've never seen anything like this. I used to say there's nothing new under the sun. It's just not true anymore. This is all freaking new. Larry in California.
We're talking about revolution.
That's what Scott said. Scott said to me, I'll fight the revolution. I'll fight the revolution. Then Brett, I said, well, what will it look like? And he's like, I don't know, but I'll be in the back. I'll be in the back. And then Brett said, well, no, then Brett said, well, you know what I would do? He said, I would cut off all the electricity to this, wherever the revolution breaks out, you just stop supplies, you stop water, you stop electricity, and you say to them, either go back to your houses or you get nothing.
Yeah, well, you're right, but there'll be also that element that won't listen. But, the thing is, you're talking about the wall, and I don't know why people aren't astute enough or don't wake up. He wants it so badly that he's going to try to take over control. The reason why he wants the money so badly so it can go and be diverted into his pocket.
Well, that's probably true.
Money so bad.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. But check this out. I mean, if he were the great negotiator he says he is, here's what I would do if I were an evil freaking guy like him, okay? I would encourage any appropriation bill that the House and the Senate can, in this conference committee, I would encourage any appropriations bill. Let them give me billions of dollars and let them say, but none of it can go to the wall. I'll be taking that money off your hands right now. And then declare your national emergency and divert that money to your stupid wall, or steal that money and then, build your wall. But he's so stupid that he won't even let them, do the appropriations bill saying you can't build your stupid wall with this money. I mean, he can't even wait.
Well, I got a better description for him. If brains were bird shit, he'd have the cleanest cage in the world.
I see. It took me a minute to paint your visual. Thank you so much. It's now on my permanent Rolodex.
But the thing is, I mean, this guy used to talk about how he knows the Chinese. I lived over in Taiwan for a number of years in the business that I was involved in. You don't talk or treat Chinese the way he has and think that you can possibly get away with it. It doesn't work. It doesn't equate.
Well, see, he's so transactional that he thinks that manners don't count and that tradition doesn't count and that the Chinese way doesn't count. And that's why, he thought, oh, well, I'll just give them billions of the people of Wisconsin's money and they'll build me a Foxconn. He put the con in Foxconn. He literally pissed them off so bad that they're not, they got the land, so they'll put something there because the people of Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, Racine County, literally paid for the land for that. But they're not going to get those jobs.
You know what the Chinese will do? They'll put a building up there. They might occupy it for a short time. Then they'll turn around and sell it.
Yeah. That's right.
And that shows what kind of an idiot he is.
Yeah, and that's after the people of Wisconsin who are on WE electricity. I don't know if it's called WE or what. But their electric bills are about to go up because they have to build the substation that will power up Foxconn, that building. Okay, that stupid building. Yeah.
And all those people that voted for this moron are getting exactly what they deserve.
Yeah, it's true.
Too bad.
Well, you know what? It actually is going to it rounds out to about $1,744 per household in Wisconsin to put the con in Foxconn. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can believe it. This guy is dangerous.
He is.
People better wake up real quick.
Real quick.
And Congress better do something real quick. We're all in a world of shit.
Well, that's why tomorrow is such a big damn day. It really is. Tomorrow might be the last day we are free to talk. You know what I mean? You just never know. You just never know.
You're gonna have to go do your show in Costa Rica.
Well, I thought about that too, and I was just telling Scott, that if I go down there, the only thing I got down there is I could use my Periscope. I don't have a studio down there. I don't have a building down there that has fiber optic or high-speed cable. I don't have any of that down there.
We'll help you build it through cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. No, I'm serious. If I put out that call, though, and you see me throw up a GoFundMe page, it's because I'm going to... Listen, I'll tell you, people were so good last week. I hope you're as good this week because, Thursday, we're going to be off. Because Thursday, the studio gets wired for fiber optic, thanks to people, helping us pay for that. And so that's happening on Thursday. Friday, I got the salesman who sells this TriCaster equipment, which is $20,000 worth of equipment. It's the kind of television equipment that you really, really need to have if you're going to do TV. And the salesman was supposed to come today, actually, and demo it, but he had something come up and he couldn't do it. So we moved it to Friday. Now, if I go spend $20,000 on this TriCaster thing, the best I could do then is take that equipment and take it with me down there if my passport is still good. You know what I mean? If I could still get there.
Right. Exactly. But you do what you have to do.
I will do what I have to do. You know I will.
I know.
I will. And, everybody will throw rocks at me and say, oh, you left. Damn right I left. Damn right I left because you need somebody outside who's got electricity to tell you what the hell's going on.
Yeah, none of your listeners are going to ridicule you for leaving. We need you.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was talking about with my guys. I was sitting here saying to Brett and Scott, you can go out in the street and, they'll unleash the National Guard. And Brett says, I don't think they'll fire at us right away. I think they'll cut off our electricity. I think they'll cut off the water and stop the shipment, the trucks from coming and, stocking the supermarket shelves. And they'll say either you go back into your house and sit there or we don't deliver bread. We don't deliver anything to you and your electricity gets cut off. And I said to him, well, then, how do we do what we do? So I'm thinking, I go down there, I use Periscope until I can set up the freaking equipment, and then I start telling people, because I'll have the internet down there. They do have internet. And but I got to think of ways now because of this moron, because of this crazy person.
I know. And the people that are in his cabinet they're lemmings. They're just lemmings.
Oh, well, you know what it is? The A team never showed up. So we started this administration with the B team. And then the B team peeled off. And now we're down to the D team. Okay, we went through the B team. Then he fired the C team. And now we're down to the D-listers. That's who's in there. And they're all acting. But you know why? Because nobody can get confirmed.
Yeah, well, D stands for dummy. And that's what they all are.
I think it stands for douche. I mean, if you would sell out your country for a little bit of, it's like I always hear Francis McDormand's voice in my head. Whenever a conversation about him comes to its natural conclusion, I hear the last scene in Fargo where she's sitting in the car and the guy who put what's his name in the wood chipper is under arrest in the back seat of the car, and it's like freaking blizzard conditions in North Dakota in Fargo, and she says, and why did you do it all? For a little bit of money, and it's a beautiful day. That's what I hear in my head. That's what these people are doing. They'll put you in a wood chipper for a little bit of money, and it's a beautiful day. Kelly in New Mexico.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. I was just thinking maybe you should hire the F Troop. I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway, anyway, first time, long time, by the way.
Oh.
I've listened to you since you were on radio here in the great state of New Mexico. So
long time.
Long time, yes, long time ago. But I'm just, the one thing that I'm gonna watch with in anticipation tomorrow night with the State of the Onion. I was called the State of the Onion because it sounds like he looks like an onion. But the State of the Union there is I know he's gonna try to sell his wall again. He's gonna keep selling his wall and all that stuff here. What's going to be interesting is see what his haircut is going to be interesting, because one time it was like orange and now it's like gray. He looks like an onion. So,
You know what's really going to be a great visual? Nancy Pelosi sitting over his shoulder, looking down on him.
I can't wait.
So check this out. I'm thinking, you remember when, I don't know, what was his name? That guy that yelled, "You lie"?
Oh, I can't think of his name offhand.
You remember who I'm talking about, though?
I think I know who you're talking about, though.
A congressman, his name was Joe something. Joe Wilson.
Joe Wilson, yeah, that's it.
Remember Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie," because Obama said that Obamacare would not cover illegals. I mean, it's always been with them, undocumented. It's always been, the brown people, right? And so he got to the part where he was trying to explain that the ACA wouldn't be available to people that had no documents, which is totally true because you have to fill out so much paper to get Obamacare. But that said, Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie." I hope if the president declares a national emergency that the Progressive Caucus, all of them, they call her AOC now, which is such a great rap name, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because no one could say her name. I hope that they all stand up and either walk out or yell, "You lie," or do something to upend him. Something. Because then he'll get nasty. He'll get off the script and he'll get freaking nasty. And who knows what he could call the sergeant at arms and say, I remember in the good old days, we would punch him in the face. They'd be carried out on a stretcher. Really? I want to see him goaded.
I would love to see that.
Me too.
I really would.
If this man declares a national emergency at the State of the Union, the Progressive Caucus at least has got to stand up and goad this man into just losing his crap up there and saying some of the most heinous, disgusting stuff because the whole country is going to be watching. The whole freaking country. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm telling you, if he declares a national emergency, it is the end of this democracy, at least for a little while, until the courts can weigh in. And you understand it will go immediately to a court. And you see how nothing happens in a split second. You start involving the court, you got to process. You got to go through, the federal court and then the appeals court and then the Supreme Court, and there's oral arguments in front of all of them, and there's en banc, meaning there'll be a 3-judge panel, then they'll have to say en banc, meaning all the appeals judges. Then it'll go to the Supreme Court. Then you got to have your oral arguments scheduled. Both sides have to show. I mean, it would just be a scary time for a while. And my best guess is he thinks he's going to run out the clock on this presidency. Because I think he knows he can't get reelected. I think he knows that. His approval ratings are in the toilet. In the toilet.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so Thursday, just to remind you, we will not be broadcasting on Thursday. We'll make it up to you, believe me. But we are installing the fiber. Thank you very much. It is now the first of the month, and if you would like to pay that bill, please feel free. Just go to randirhodes.com. You could use PayPal, whatever you like. But and we literally ran out of those long sleeve T-shirts, so I just ordered. Oh God, like another. I think I just ordered another 120 of them in all sizes. So those are there, and the V-necks, the women's, we also ran out of. So there, we just ordered a whole bunch of those. So feel free, help yourself, get some of the long sleeve T-shirts. They're fierce. They're awesome. I love them. And the crew necks, the women's crew necks, they're V-necks. They're there too, so you can go ahead and grab those today too. So thanks a lot. Like I said, it's the first of the month. We have to pay a lot of bills, so I always do a little push here at the first. If you can, great. If you can't, I got it. Or buy a Stinker podcast. That's always a great thing. All right, Paul in Woodinville.
I think he's going to pull some kind of stunt tomorrow night.
Like, what do you think?
He's going to say, well, let's make a deal right now, and he's going to stick out his hand to Nancy Pelosi and say, let's shake on it right now. I don't think he's going to declare a national emergency, in which case I think Nancy Pelosi should do this. She should cough and cover her mouth with her right hand and then stick her hand out and say, what are we shaking on? Because, he's a germaphobe. He won't shake her hand if she coughs on her hand and sticks it out.
Oh, he's not really a germaphobe. This was a lie because, he thought urine and germaphobe, and this is how he could deny. And then people pointed out urine is sterile, and it was like, whatever. He's not.
Well, who would shake somebody's hand after they just...
He's not a germaphobe. He's not anything. He's just crazy. He's a wackadoo. You know who? I was thinking Northam should resign and go be his personal physician because it's time for his yearly physical. And guess whose name comes popping back today? Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who is still under investigation by the Inspector General for overprescribing drugs and drinking on the job. But it's time for Trump's physical again. And Trump doesn't want a normal doctor who's going to actually say, oh, my God, this guy snorts Adderall all day. Right?
Did you see, I didn't see it on television, but the Saturday that he made the kind of the proposal to open the government where he said, I'll give you an extension on DACA in exchange for the wall funding. Now, a friend of mine told me, she said that he looked terrible and that he had a bandage on his hand. It looked like he just had got an IV. Did you see that?
I did. I saw the thing on his hand. I didn't know if he got an IV, but yeah, he had a little thing on his hand. Who the hell knows what the hell happened there? But the extension he was talking about was 3 years. That does nothing for anybody.
So, that's ridiculous. It's not even the same currency. You don't exchange a legislative bill for an executive order. That's like exchanging, greenbacks for monopoly money. That just doesn't make any sense. But what I'm really worried about is that this thing about going into Venezuela, who would trust any president, let alone this crazy person?
We're not going into Venezuela.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, because he's rational?
No, because he's lazy.
Well, he doesn't have a defense secretary. He doesn't have anybody to manage the theater.
Right. And that's
who's
why
do it? Him?
Right, he won't.
I mean,
I'll tell you what he wants to do. He wants to attack Iran. He really does. You got the Boltons of the world, advising him. You've got the Lindsey Grahams of the world advising him. Why do you think Lindsey Graham is an ass licker? Either because when the Russians hacked, they got some of Lindsey's emails too, and he's got a lot to hide, and because the president is all about, attacking Iran.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What is this deal with, the treaty? Can the president withdraw from a treaty without two-thirds consent of the Senate? I mean, the Constitution mandates that he can make a treaty silent about whether to withdraw from one, which, by the way, is letting Russia off the hook, obviously.
Oh, totally.
You're talking about collusion.
Who would do that? You got a treaty since the 80s, and they're violating it. This is the time for sanctions. This is the time where you play hardball. This is the time when you don't take their oil. It's a petrol state, for God's sake. This is a time when you say, all right, so now you're going to give us back. You're going to give Crimea back because this is what we want in exchange for you building nukes. We're going to sanction you. No, he says, okay, here's free reign. Do what you want. What?
So, my senators, I called my senator's office.
And I tell you what this is about. This is about Russia walking away from Iran and they won't defend Iran so that he can attack Iran. He gives Russia everything it wants, and then he can get Russia away from Iran and take Iran.
Okay, but if you're not worried about him going into Venezuela and you think he's going to attack Iran, and without a defense secretary, without anybody to manage the theater, that's crazy. We will get our asses kicked.
The answer for Venezuela is also sanctions. Venezuela sold their oil fields to Vladimir Putin for $1.5 billion. That's what Maduro got, okay? He's a cheap date. He got $1.5 billion and he gave Russia, and that includes Citgo. And Citgo is present here. Okay, so if you really wanted to punish Russia over this nuclear crap, you would tell them we got 3 Citgo refineries right there in Texas. You can't touch them. You can't have them. You can't even look at them. But they don't do this. It's playing a different freaking game.
Let's go back to the state of the national emergency.
Yeah.
Not only he can seize land and he can liberate funds. But in order to do this, he's going to need the help of Congress because there are sections of the U.S. Code that deal with this that he cannot just take. He's going to need a lot of private land here, and you can do it in a national emergency, but only in a declaration of war could you acquire private property.
What do you think I'm talking about here?
There's going to be bazillions of lawsuits, not only from on the
political side. Of course there will be.
But
yes, there'll be eminent domain lawsuits. There'll be all kinds of lawsuits. There'll be it'll rain lawsuits, but they all take time. So we're going to be living in limbo in a nether region.
But we will get an injunction at some point. He won't just go forward with it.
Ultimately, all these things go to the ultimate court, which is the Supreme. So it just depends on Alito and Roberts. Have they had enough of this guy, or are they going to go along to get along? I don't know. And if our future is in the hands of those two guys, you know, we're pretty much screwed. And plus, it doesn't get to them for a while. It's got to go through the entire system of justice. It has to go from the lower court, a decision, to the appeals court, oral arguments, then a decision, a written decision, then to the Supreme Court, oral arguments, and a decision. And, you know, they hear oral arguments like now, and then they render their decision in October. So, I mean, you're talking months and months and months of not knowing what in the hell is going on here. Who's really in charge of anything here?
Yeah, that's true. A federal district judge who was a Trump sympathizer might decline to give it, make an injunction saying, you can't go ahead with this, although someone could do that fairly quickly. You can't just start seizing people's property and building your wall in your national emergency. That could be, there could be an injunction on that fairly quickly, but at the other hand, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not just eminent domain. I mean, he could build, where there are no property, where people have already sold their property, or people. He says that he's already, entered into contracts. I mean, God knows he's a liar, but that's what he said. He said he's already got, some property owners who, have already taken the money, because eminent domain, you have to get paid the fair market value.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the money. He's not. No,
he says he already did that. He said he already did that. He has said that.
Yeah, but he can't. That's a lie.
Well, probably
he doesn't have the money. You have to have a Congress to negotiate the eminent domain.
Yes, but Congress has approved money for border security, but none of it can go to the building of a wall. That doesn't mean that he didn't use some of the billions, and they gave him like $3 billion. It doesn't mean that he didn't use some of that money to pay people for that portion of the land that they were willing to sell to him. When you take it,
that would have had to have provisions on it too.
No, it doesn't. If I'm a private property owner and and the government comes to me and they say, Randy, I want to buy 3/4 of your backyard, it doesn't have to go through Congress. If I say, okay, give me fair market value, then it's a transfer.
But the money that he got had earmarks on it. He can't they didn't just give him $3 billion to do whatever.
No, they said not any of the money can go to building a wall. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't go to purchase land.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that.
Okay. GP in California.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
I think we're not giving Trump enough credit here. He's doing everything to break the government down.
Yep.
It's easy. It's just easier for the Russians to use them as an asset, and it's working beautifully for both of them. Trump's making his millions. Putin is playing him like a marionette. They're not going to go into Venezuela. They're not going to go into Iran because Venezuela is owned by the Chinese and the Russians, and Iran.
Yeah, but if he actually gives Russia, the ability to do what Russia wants to do without sanctions, and Russia wants to take, I don't know, now Belarus or Montenegro or, which is a NATO ally or something like that. And Trump says, do what you want. Do what you hear. I'll pull us out of the nuclear treaty. You could do whatever you want, but just, I want Iran. I want the oil in Iran. That's what I want. You could have Venezuela. I take Iran.
And all the Republicans have been greased up by Russian money. They're all in it, and they've been sold to the lowest price. We've all been sold, and Putin made his master chess geopolitical move and invaded the United States without firing one bullet, all with trolls.
Well, you know what would happen that way. I've always said, we could never be destroyed from outside. It can only happen from inside. And if he cultivated a person for years and years and understood that this person was a narcissist, an egomaniac, and needed to be fluffed and then paid, and that's all it would take, because, why did you do this for a little bit of money and it's such a beautiful day, right? Then this was a great deal for Vlad.
Yeah, two words, maturing candidate,
right.
All the way.
Yes, possible. And we need to prove it if we're going to do anything meaningful about ousting him. Right now, I swear to God, there's a coup in Virginia. It's just so bizarre what's going on in that state. And maybe they're just testing the waters to see how it would play. A coup, like, will the people sit down and take it? Can you lie to them? Can you say that, this guy, Justin, that now they're saying this guy, Justin Fairfax, who's the lieutenant governor, who, like I said, would be the second black governor of Virginia after Doug Wilder. They're saying he now raped a woman. And they put that on Big League Politics with a right-wing blog. And now they've got Justin Fairfax thinking that Northam is the person that's telling this lie to the Republicans and it's because, they're trying to make you think that Justin Fairfax had the most to gain as lieutenant governor, so he's the one that set up Northam, and Northam is retaliating. I mean, none of this is true. Northam was in blackface in 1984. He obviously thought it was him in that picture and said so. But this is the confusion, and this is the craziness, and this is the distraction. And there's really a coup in Virginia, because if Northam resigns and then Fairfax takes his job and gets sworn in as governor, and then 5 minutes later he is asked to leave because they read something on Big League Politics that he did something when he was in law school to a girl and he went too far. Then you end up with Bill Howell, the Republican Speaker of the House, as governor of Virginia. That is a coup. Jerry in Baltimore.
Well, thank you, Randy. But you kind of got to the point I was getting at, that Ralph Northam is being run out just like they did our guy from Minnesota.
Oh, please, no.
Well, look.
Al Franken was betrayed by Kirsten Gillibrand, who's currently running for president, okay? Al Franken took a couple of pictures. He wasn't touching a girl. She was wearing a flak jacket, for God's sake.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Okay, but this 25
years ago.
Was 1984. 1984, blackface was just as vile as it is today.
Wrong. Because in 1982, George Wallace ran for governor of Alabama and won again with the black vote.
No,
you know what?
He was shot.
Oh, my God. It's right there on YouTube. It's a part of his history. His fifth term as governor. He went around and apologized, the apology tour, if you want to call it that. And you know what? Black folks forgave him. Oh, no, he's converted. And he did do good his last term. You could hold the man accountable, but you got to give him a chance to atone, because we need good Democrats. Or did you hang up on me?
No, I didn't hang up on you, but George Wallace was shot in 1972.
Guess what?
What?
He is on TV saying segregation now, segregation forever.
And he was shot in 1972. What are you watching? Rick in L.A.
Randy.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing your show. I was wondering what your take is. If he does this thing on Tuesday night, where he actually goes through with declaring a state of national emergency, what do you think the intelligence community is going to do? And I'll take your answer off the air.
I have no idea. I don't think we've ever been through anything like this, so I have no idea. I don't know what contingency plans they have on shelves. I don't. I have no earthly idea. I mean, I know there are contingency plans for every single country. Every single country, okay? What are there, like 192 countries? There are 192 plans. It's what they do at the Pentagon. It's what they do at the CIA. It's what they do at the DIA. It's what they do at NSA. I mean, there are plans, and more plans. But what do you do if the commander-in-chief takes all the power for himself and cuts Congress out of the equation? And then, I don't know, I mean, maybe he defies the Supreme Court too, even if the Supreme Court says to him, he's a dictator. I mean, go look at what happened in Venezuela. That's the first thing that they did in Venezuela was they took over the judicial branch, right? And then Maduro decided that he would dissolve Congress, not listen to them, not pay any attention. And the people went out in the street. And so he said, all right, we'll reinstitute Congress, but I'm not going to listen to them. that's kind of where we are, except that, they have hyperinflation and all this stuff because Maduro literally sold everything of value to Vladimir Putin for $1.5 billion. It was all a transactional thing. Maduro's not a socialist. Maduro is an oligarch. He's a thug. He's a thief. And so is our president. Our president is mobbed up. He is a thug. He gets other people to get their hands dirty, and take oaths of muerta to him. But he's no better. I mean, he's a thug, and everything with him is it's money, transactional. Buy a stinking podcast.
Thank you, sir. Let me ask you this. There's been a conviction in the special counsel investigation of Mr. Manafort. Jury trial, conviction. There have been guilty pleas from Flynn, Manafort, Gates, Papadopoulos, and Michael Cohen, and dozens of indictments, including 13 Russian nationals, 3 Russian companies, and Roger Stone. Would you say the special counsel's investigation is a witch hunt? Are you overseeing a witch hunt?
Congressman, as I've mentioned previously, the special counsel's investigation is an ongoing investigation, and so I think it would be inappropriate for me to...
But you wouldn't oversee a witch hunt, would you? You'd stop a witch hunt, wouldn't you?
Congressman, it would be inappropriate for me to talk about an ongoing investigation.
You said that you're not interfering with the special counsel's investigation. Have you denied him any funds he's requested at all?
Congressman, I can tell this is an important issue for you, but
it's an important issue for the American public and for the whole world.
Congressman, to answer your question directly, I have not denied any funds to the special counsel's investigation.
Have you denied him the opportunity to go any areas where he wanted to investigate or any matters of investigation?
Congressman, as I previously testified, I have not interfered with the special counsel's investigation.
All right, so this is the clown show that we have for today. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for your patience yesterday. I just want to thank you very much for helping us out. We have fiber. We're not on the system quite yet, but it is here. It's run into our offices. We are Roy. You know Roy. Roy! What? Hey. He's here. He is our engineer. He's amazing. No, I wasn't really summoning. Yes, I was just saying hello in the voice that you are used to. So Roy is here. He is conducting a lot of testing. Testing is what we're doing here. And then we will proceed. We will be on the fiber optic. We are installing an enormous amount of things. Remember I talked to you about, a good chunk of the reason why we haven't been able to expand our reach has to do with equipment. And I was looking at purchasing about, what are we up to, Roy? About $30,000 now? And counting. Yeah, about $30,000 worth of equipment and engineering. So please do give and give generously and support our efforts to bring you something really special. To growing the show. As we cover the clown show that is our current Congress, I just want to point out to you today that the bull of the House, the truck of the House, a congressman, I hope you know, I am sure people in Michigan know the name John Dingell, and I'm sure that they're familiar with, John Dingell Sr., who was John Dingell's father, and John Dingell, and then John Dingell's wife, Debbie Dingell. I'm not kidding. I mean, I know it's a funny name, but the Dingell family, for about 86 years now, has filled the seat just outside of Detroit in the House of Representatives for 86 years. It's practically a fairly heirloom, that seat. Practically a fairly, I got to say, the whole Dingell family, between John Dingell's dad, John Dingell, who served under 11 presidents. The day that, this is crazy, but I've met John Dingell, and that's what he was a truly amazing Congress member. He was a statesman. He was insane. He was so good. There were things that he did that, of course, along a voting record of 59 years, of course, there are going to be votes that, you were not down with. But for the most part, this guy, You know, he was 6'3". He weighed about 200 pounds. He was called the Bull. He was an amazing legislator who protected his home district, and his home district was the automaking industry, the automobile industry. He was the most, in that way, he was probably the most powerful man in Washington who never became president. But, you know, it's just, you know, when FDR made the announcement that the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor and said this is a day that will live in infamy, John Dingell was, I think he was a page at the time in the House. And he was actually physically there that day when FDR announced that we were going to World War II. John Dingell went to World War II when he was 18, so he must have been a page at like 17 because he was president in the House chamber. And then he finally ran for election in 1955. And he served until, well, his father started in 1933. And then John Jr. Actually was elected in 1955. So imagine John Dingell, this man who's just passed away at the age of 92, was there for everything that matters to us. He was there for the passage of the Civil Rights Acts, the Voting Rights Act. He was there for the passage of Medicare, Medicaid. His father, back in 1940, I think his father served in, I know his father was elected in 33. I can't be sure of the year. I think it was maybe 43. His father was one of the first people to ever bring up national health care as an issue. And we finally got it with Junior. And that was when Ronald Reagan was running around and he was, you know, getting the wives. I swear to God, this is amazing. This is what people remember, that Ronald Reagan had this record. I mean, like an LP, like a piece of vinyl that went around saying that Medicare was pure socialism. We were going to devolve into some hellhole if we did Medicare, right? And so what Reagan did was he organized the wives. I know, but this is pre-internets. He organized the wives of doctors, and the wives of doctors would have card games or, you know, like socials or teas, and they would invite their friends over, and their friends were played this Ronald Reagan record, and they were encouraged then to go write letters to Congress to tell them that if we passed Medicare, the United States of America would become a hellhole. No, I'm not kidding. It's the same bullcrap that passes for, you know, be very afraid of socialism now, as Donald Trump compares these great United States to a corrupt petrol state known as Venezuela. Venezuela is not the result of socialism. Venezuela is the result of an oligarchic, corrupt petrol state a la Russia, a la Chad, a la Sudan, okay? Freaks. They're all a bunch of lunatic freaks, I got to tell you. And, you know, that's why when he gave this State of the Union, which is kind of where we left off the other day, and he was talking about socialism, I just wanted to punch him.
We stand with the Venezuelan people.
Oh, bite me.
In their noble quest for freedom. And we condemn the brutality of the Maduro regime.
He can hardly say it.
Whose socialist policies have turned that nation from being the wealthiest in South America into a state of abject poverty and despair.
It ain't socialism that did that.
Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country.
I'll boo you.
America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free.
Born free as the wind blows. We are not free. We are owned and operated by oligarchs. We are owned and operated by dark money, big money, PACs, you name it, etc. And AOC, let me tell you that this girl is on fire. That girl is on fire. She gave an example of what's to come with her as a congresswoman She exposed to you something I've exposed to you, but she did it in Congress, and it was heard all over this country. Why America is fallen, why America is just becoming a corrupt oligarchy, and it's all about the money. You want your country back, you freaks? Oh, I want our country. Get the money out. Get the freaking money out. Let me tell you, Venezuela has been a petrol state. What is a petrol state? It means that their income, their GDP, everything is completely reliant on the export of oil and natural gas. And that economic and political power are concentrated in an elite minority at the very tippy top of that economy, and that the institutions of checks and balances of a Congress, of all the judiciary, all of the institutions of democracy are weakened and unaccountable, and corruption is widespread. America today has more in common with that description of a corrupt petrol state than it does with Denmark or Norway or any of the democratic, the social, social democracies in the world. And to compare us to Venezuela would have been a good comparison if he admitted that what he's got and what he's running and what he's presiding over is a corrupt petrol state. That's what America has become. You know, I got to play you this this few minutes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because it was a complete and total explanation of how the swamp rats are eating your face. And the idea that Americans are looking down at others for the answer to how we got to this corrupt state of that we're in is ridiculous. You need to look up. Look up, because that's where the poop is coming from. They are pooping on you, the elite. This tiny little slice of the population that can afford and does purchase the legislators, policy. Legislation is written by them, for them. The tax code is written for them, by them. That's what's wrong. Watch.
Let's play a game.
Yeah.
Let's play a lightning round game. I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn. Oh, and by the way, I have enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators. So you're going to help me legally get away with all of this. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, I want to run. If I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC funded. Okay, so let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great. So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off, and that is considered speech. That money is considered speech. So I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in. I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Fabulous. Now, is there any hard limit that I have, perhaps Mrs. Hobart Flynn, is there any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence, especially if I'm based on the special interest funds that I accepted to finance my campaign and get me elected in the first place.
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
That's
okay,
right.
So awesome. Now, Mr. Mirabani, the last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so my last question is, or one of my last questions, I guess I'd say, is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Mirabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes.
All right, so one last thing, Mr. Schaub. In relation to congressional oversight that we have, the limits that are placed on me as a congresswoman, compared to the executive branch and compared to, say, the President of the United States, would you say that Congress has the same sort of standard of accountability? Is there more teeth in that regulation in Congress on the President, or would you say it's about even, or more so on the federal?
In terms of laws that apply to the president, yeah, there's just almost no laws at all that apply to the president.
So I'm being held, and every person in this body is being held to a higher ethical standard than the President of the United States.
That's right, because there are some ethics committee rules that apply to you.
And it's already super legal, as we've seen, for me to be a pretty bad guy. So it's even easier for the President of the United States to be one, I would assume.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Thank you very much. These are the kinds of Congress people we have been missing for a very long time. When John Dingell died, I realized that we had lost somebody who fought for the people. I realized that we had somebody who fought for Medicare and civil rights. The Endangered Species Act would never have happened. The Clean Air Act, he fought for and won. Do you remember when we used to understand about a $640 toilet being purchased by the Pentagon and the procurement, waste and fraud that was going on? That was John Dingell. The first EPA administrator under Ronald Reagan was a hack who was representing industry. We're back to that now. He got her fired. What comes around goes around. Maybe we're going to have progress again.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
So I hope you learned something from that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez clip. I hope you learned that it is all about the money. And that is a corrupt petrol state that we're running. This is a country that literally writes the laws for fossil fuel industries. This is literally a country that gave $21 billion. We now know how much the banks got in this tax cut. $21 billion worth of tax cuts for big banks that were the absolute stick-up guys in the last crash that we had in 2008, okay? I mean, they just made $21 billion off of this tax cut. Same people that done it to us. I mean, this is just unbelievable. It's like a guy shot me, and, he said he was sorry, and then I handed him back the gun, and he shot me again. It is the most ridiculous system of self-governing because we're not self-governing. We're being governed by the uber ultra elite, the freaking rich billionaires, the bastards of the universe, the top 1/10 of 1%. They're the ones that are doing all of this to all of us. And so the beauty of what she did there is when you talk about campaigns and you talk about financing them and you talk about being able to legislate on the issues that the industries that supported you with their dark money supported you so that you could have a lot of legislation about, and that there are no limits. I think you realize we are Venezuela. I think you get that we are Chad. I think you get that we are some third world country. I think you get that we have become a corrupt petrol state. And the reason why we've become that is because we actually had Citizens United. We actually allow it. We actually encourage it. And we call payoffs free speech. We call money people. We call corporations people. It's so. But I hope the other thing that you learned from watching that little 5 minutes there that should have changed your life, should have changed your political stand. It should have been a clarifying moment of a clear, clarifying moment of absolute clarity. Should have been. But I've been telling you this for years, that when she was asking questions of guys like Walter Schaub, who's the former guy who was in charge of ethics, okay, for the Bush administration, believe it or not, and quit because Donald Trump was the least ethical person he could possibly think of, and testified there. I hope you learned that when you are prepared to tell the truth, and when you know your subject matter, and when you are then questioned by a member of the House, or Senate for that matter, that a yes or no answer is easy to give. This is what happened today with the acting attorney general. We're talking about justice. We're talking about, I told you, freedom is wholly dependent on the application of free and fair justice, laws of man, okay, being enforced. Here's, this is unbelievable. Here's Sheila Jackson Lee. As you know, she's a Democrat from Houston. And she's questioning Matt Whitaker today, okay? And she's asking Matt Whitaker some yes or no questions that are pretty important. And he won't answer them. This is so insane. You know why? Because he's aiming to deceive and obfuscate and withhold. Now, I want to tell you before I play this that Matt Whitaker has consistently this morning been testifying and consistently invoking executive privilege in his testimony today, saying that anything that he talked about with John Kelly, anything that he talked about with Donald Trump is privilege somehow. Here's how that works. Executive privilege can only be invoked by the executive. And Donald Trump hasn't invoked executive privilege. So all these claims that Matt Whitaker is making about being protected by an exhortation of executive, that hasn't even happened. It just didn't happen. Didn't occur. So that's all bull. But I just want to show you what happens when you can't give a yes or no question because you don't intend to tell the truth. It sounds like this.
With the short time that I have, I want to make sure that your questions are answered in a yes or no matter. This is the first oversight hearing we have had in the Justice Department in almost 15 months. You did not have a confirmation hearing, and you have not yet appeared for an oversight hearing. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Congresswoman, I am the acting.
Yes or no? Have you appeared before an oversight hearing in the Congress?
Congresswoman, I have not.
It has been 10 years.
Witness will answer the question as asked, please.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if the parliamentary inquiry, if he feels that a yes or no is appropriate, he'll answer in a yes or no. If he does not feel it's appropriate, he should be able to answer in the appropriate. As many Democrat administration officials.
Shut up, Doug Collins. Okay, first of all, let me just stop here for a brief moment. Doug Collins is obviously an arm of Donald Trump, okay? He's a little tiny arm. He's like a little thalidomide baby just growing out at Donald Trump's shoulder. And he is there to be a soldier for Donald Trump. This is sick. She asked a very simple question. I mean, right. just like you said. I don't want to say that, but he said basic as F, okay? It was just straightforward and real simple. Isn't it true that you were never confirmed, because he's acting, and isn't it true that you've never appeared before Congress for an oversight hearing at all, ever, about anything? That's a no-brainer. The answer clearly is no. He wasn't confirmed, so he's had no confirmation hearing, and there hasn't been an oversight hearing on the Department of Justice in the last 15 freaking months. So that's a yes or no, but you can see he's looking to deceive. Why? Because he feels like she may be building to something, and he doesn't want to say yes or no, because if she's building to something, he wants to be able to lie or backpedal or obfuscate or somehow confuse people. That's bullcrap, baby.
Have done before this committee before. That is unreal.
The member
You're
has
unreal.
only 5 minutes.
Really? Shut up.
If we've just discovered that we have
she wants a yes or no
answer,
answer, she's entitled to it.
Thank you.
I will not allow the witness to stall and waste members' time.
Thank you.
The witness
Where were
will
you
answer
when
the
Ms.
question.
Lynch and Mr. Holder were
The
here?
witness will answer the
Mr.
question.
Chairman, may I have my time restored? I think it was at 4 minutes.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Attorney General, the question is, did you have a confirmation hearing, and has it been more than 10 years since you testified before Congress?
Congresswoman,
Can the clock be restored?
It was. I'm sorry, what was your... I don't know if your time's been restored or not.
Mr. Attorney General, we're not joking here, and your humor is not acceptable. Now, you're here because we have a constitutional duty to ask questions, and the Congress has the right to establish government rules.
She's holding up a constitution right there, in case you're wondering. And the snark from this man. This was not at the beginning of the hearing. This was like, smack dead in the middle of it. This was just such a dog and pony show. This was such a... I mean, you could hear the circus freaking music. Send in the clowns. They did. They sent in the freaking clowns. Matt Whitaker is a freaking clown. This was so painful. I can't even tell you. And it started off like... And this Doug Collins dude... Oh my God, he started from the very beginning with let's take a vote and let's shut this thing down and every parliamentary inquiry and this and that and kept throwing temper tantrums all day. Here he is again throwing a temper tantrum when the Karen Bass, who's a Democrat from California, she was asking Whitaker about his membership in an organization that distorts information called FACT, which is actually the opposite of what it is. And Doug Collins throws in again.
It's my understanding that before you moved to the Department of Justice, that you were the executive director of the Foundation for Accountability and Civic and Trust.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Oh, bite me.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Chairman, I have
FACT
a
is
point
a
of order.
conservative ethics watchdog
I have a point
where
of
he
order.
made full use of the opportunity to call for investigations of multiple Democrats.
The gentleman will state his point of
My
order.
point of order by the very statement from the gentlelady is outside the scope of an oversight investigative hearing on the Department of Justice.
It is not. You need to
That
let
is
me
not-
finish my question, and you'll see what I was asking.
Gentlelady will suspend. That is not a valid point of order. The gentlelady will continue.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order, Rule pursuant to 10 of the House rules, that the question is outside the scope of...
The gentlelady has the floor.
Mr. Are you just going to overrun a point of order?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
Gentlelady will
state my point of order.
The gentlelady will suspend. I ruled that it was not a valid point of order, and the gentlelady has the floor. The gentlelady will continue.
Thank you.
I was not through with my point of order.
You're through.
The gentlelady will continue.
Fill the ruling in the chair.
Move to table.
I move to table.
And then they had a vote. They had a freaking vote. And that wasn't the first time that this Doug Collins, this ranking member on the Judiciary Committee, made them vote today. I mean, this is a simple matter. This is a simple matter. This man, before he became the Attorney General of the United States, yes, he's acting, he's not confirmed, but he is in charge of the Mueller investigation. And prior to him becoming the Attorney General of the United States, who currently is in charge of the Mueller investigation, he was the attorney at the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, which is a bogus conservative organization that does absolutely nothing but find Democrats, only Democrats, and call for investigations of them. Now he's the Attorney General and he can use the full force of the Department of Justice. Don't you think it's important that in the very first oversight hearing that we have regarding this man being in charge of the awesome Department of Justice, that you get, because he's never been confirmed, so we never got to ask these questions, that you get these questions answered? Isn't it true? Doesn't this go to bias? Doesn't this go to whether or not he's going to be fair when it comes to the administration of the laws? Yes, it does. And this man will not let Whitaker answer any of these questions because he knows the answer is bad. And that's what I'm saying. When first you practice to deceive, oh, what a tangled web we weave. And so you can't give a yes or no answer. You can't say, yes, I proudly served as the counsel for the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust Fact, which is, we hunt Democrats. That's what we do. He can't answer it because that goes to bias, and it would clearly show that he had to recuse himself from anything he does. Anything he does. This was about oversight of the department, the Justice Department, that he is plainly in charge of as we sit here today. And this guy, this Collins dude, man, he started out this morning like this. They have voted, I can't even tell you how many times, on Gerald Nadler's rulings as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Sick.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, so I just want to show you how this started. Okay, this is the beginning of the day. What I've played you were dead smack in the middle of the hearing. And Whitaker was called to testify in front of the House Judiciary Committee in order to allow the Democrats to perform oversight on the Department of Justice because we don't have an Attorney General. We don't have a confirmed Attorney General. We only have an acting dude. And we got Bill Barr, who's waiting in the wings to be confirmed, who also is a guy of very questionable motivation when it comes to the Mueller investigation. Is he going to allow us as Americans to know if our president has been compromised, cultivated, if his foreign, influence is something that we should be concerned about with regard to crazy places like Saudi Arabia and petrol states like Russia and oligarchies and authoritarian governments like North freaking Korea. And Duterte, don't forget about him over in the Philippines, who likes to just ride through the city with his police officers shooting drug addicts. And this man, Mr. Collins, just won't shut the F up because he doesn't want Whitaker to have to answer any stinking questions about any stinking thing.
When you come here and you put a issue of this hearing, yes, on Thursday, Bill Barr was approved out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. By next Thursday, he will be the Attorney General. This gentleman right here is finishing up the last term of acting Attorney General. He was willing to come, but yet we had the charade yesterday. This hearing is pointless, and basically it was made even more pointless by the chairman's opening statement. This is not about what the good men and women at the Department of Justice are doing. This is not about FBI agents who are doing their job. It could be about the FBI agents that we on our side have talked about that didn't do their job, and we'll probably hear a lot about that today. There's plenty of frustration of issues of DOJ oversight. But, sir, I'm not sure, frankly, that the oversight of your financial situation from 2014 to 2016 has anything to do with this hearing. It's beyond the scope of this hearing. So if this is what we're going to do, if this is where we're going, then I want to remind everyone that this is not the Senate. If my friends on the other side of the aisle of this committee wanted to do a confirmation hearing, they just ought to set it up front. And if they want to do a confirmation hearing on senators, run for Senate. This is not a confirmation hearing. This is a Department of Justice oversight hearing. Supposedly, I'm sorry. Back to theatrics again. The curtain opened up and we found out what was really going on. No, we want to damage the president. We want to talk about your private conversations. We want to talk about what you did and why the president, a most amazing quote I just heard a moment ago. We want to know why the president may have put you there for what he got. That's offensive. When we look at this and we go through this, Mr. Whitaker, there are a lot of issues that we've discussed personally, and there's also, as far as knowing this and discussing things that we could do at oversight that, frankly, on our side, we're frustrated with. And that's going to come out today.
Why don't you say it?
But for the chairman to do what we did yesterday, to have this hide-and-seek game, to play it all along, and then to willingly mislead the press and everybody else to think you're coming here today because of a partial assurance, not a full-blown cave, which is exactly what happened in his letter, is a travesty not only to this committee, but to the people watching and the reporters who thought it was real. When we look forward into this hearing today, it's time on this one, if this is the way we're going to go, then we'll have plenty of stunts. We're going to have plenty of theatrics. Bring your popcorn. I'm thinking about maybe we just set up a popcorn machine in the back because...
Oh, just shut up already, okay? The reason why he was called to testify before he leaves is because he has been briefed on the Mueller investigation, and they have the right, and they have the job, and they have the task in the Constitution to conduct oversight over this scam artist who was selling, a handicapped walk-in tubs and, razor blades and bilking veterans out of their hard-earned cash by saying that he could patent their inventions and literally stealing from them. They have the right to ask that man whether or not he was also scamming the United States of America when he became acting attorney general and was briefed on the Mueller investigation. Did he run back to Donald Trump and tell Donald Trump what Mueller had? Did he do that? That is why he was called there. And in order to demonstrate his bias, and in order to demonstrate his willingness to scam and lie and rip off people, it had to come to light that his character doesn't exist, that he has no moral compass, and therefore he is perfectly capable of doing illegal and terrible things. Now, after this idiot, this guy who was so disruptive all day today, this Doug Collins dude, was finally quieted, Gerald Nadler began to ask those questions.
At a press conference last week, sir, you said that you have been fully briefed on the special counsel's investigation. I would like to better understand that comment. Yes or no? Since your appointment as acting attorney general, have you been briefed on criminal or counterintelligence matters within the special counsel's purview?
Chairman, thank you for that question. As you know, I cannot talk about ongoing investigations.
But you can say whether you've been briefed or not.
And as you commented about my recent press conference, as it relates to the special counsel's investigation, I have been briefed on it.
So the answer is yes. Thank you. Were you briefed on those matters at any point while you were serving as Chief of Staff to Attorney General Sessions?
Chairman, I know you're very interested in the special counsel's investigation, and so I want to be very clear about this. Because General Sessions was recused from the special counsel's investigation, I had no involvement in the special counsel's
So the answer is no. So the answer is no. Thank you. How many times were you briefed about the special counsel's work, and when did the briefings take place?
Mr. Chairman, I've said all that I'm planning on saying about the number of times or the briefings that I've received on the special counsel's investigation. It is the subject matter of an ongoing investigation. I think it would be very improper for me, as I sit here today, to talk anything more about it.
Whether you were briefed is the subject of an ongoing investigation? I didn't follow that.
No, the number of times I've been briefed and my involvement in the investigation, sir.
Well, it's our understanding that at least one briefing occurred in December before your decision not to recuse yourself on December 19th and Christmas Day. Is that correct?
What's the basis for that question, sir?
What?
Yes or no? Is it correct? It is our understanding that at least one briefing occurred between your decision not to recuse yourself on December 19th and 6 days later, Christmas Day. Is that correct? Simple enough question. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, again, what is the basis for your question? You're saying that it is your...
Sure, I'm asking the questions. I only have 5 minutes. So please answer yes or no.
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to... you were asking me a question. It is your understanding. Can you tell me where you get the...
No, I'm not going to tell you that. I don't have time to get into that. I'm just asking you if that's correct or not. Is it correct? Were you briefed in that time period between December 19th and Christmas Day? Simple question, yes or no?
Congressman, if every member here today asks questions based on their mere speculation...
All right, never mind. At any point, yes or no, yes or no, at any point since that briefing, have you communicated any information you learned in that briefing to President Trump?
Mr. Chairman, I know that there is a unique
yes or no
special interest in this.
Seriously,
I'm sorry.
Yes or no question. Have you communicated anything you learned in that briefing about the investigation to President Trump? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, as I've said earlier today in my opening remarks, I do not intend today to talk about my private conversations with the President of the United States. But to answer your question, I have not talked to the President of the United States about the special counsel's investigation.
So the answer is no. Thank you.
Jesus, HP. And then he proceeds to tell Gerald Nadler, Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up. The snark from this guy, I mean, everybody was like, the whole freaking gallery, everybody there, all the other Congress members, they all gasped. Everybody was like, what, bug. And he does it again to Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean, he's like a Neanderthal, man. You know, he's like a little child. He's like a baby man. He's unbelievably like baby man. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. He said, you know, finally, they like rip it out of him. They get him under oath, you know, in front of Congress. It's saying, I did not share information about the Mueller probe with the president or any other senior White House official. And he never discussed his views with Donald Trump or anyone in the White House or any surrogates. He finally answers the freaking question. Now you have him on the record saying he didn't. However, I find that completely hard to believe. You know, this man was selected because he would get the briefing and tell the president everything that Mueller had, or at least what, you know, he believes Mueller had. And, you know, this idea that you know, he wasn't briefed and he can't answer the question and it's executive, that's a lie, because nobody exerted executive privilege, and the only one that can is Trump himself. But beyond that, don't you remember that Whitaker stood in front of all of us the other day? They were having a press conference about you know, Hawaii, about the Chinese phone company that's been banned from operating here in the United States because their phones have spyware on them. And a reporter asked Whitaker about, have you been briefed by Mueller? Because everybody wants to know, what do you know, and what did you tell, and who did you tell, and did you tell Rudy, and did you tell Trump, and did you tell, you know, anybody at the Justice Department, or did you tell Bill Barr? Did you tell anybody what Mueller has? And remember what Whitaker said? Oh, yeah, I was briefed by him, and he told me that he's almost done. And then the next day, Roger Stone is indicted. And we realize when we read the indictment that it ain't even close to being done. So he lied. Now, this invocation of executive privilege, that is bizarro world, because the president left him out there to fend for himself. Donald Trump could have evoked executive privilege over any conversations that he had with Whitaker at any time about anything, and he didn't. This is all bullcrap. Paul and Wood Enville.
Yeah, total bullcrap. And it's this is the Kavanaugh play all over again. So the witness becomes combative and you know, obfuscates, and that's the cue for one of the ranking Republican members to start running interference, just like Lindsey Graham did during the Kavanaugh hearings. And that's what this Doug Collins started doing. He's taking up time. He has no business to do that. That's not his. I don't know why they didn't just shut him down and say you're out of order. He has no business to just butt in and start. He was basically obstructing the hearing.
Yes, he was. There was no question in my mind that he was obstructing that hearing, and he wouldn't stop obstructing that hearing. And you know what it looked like to me? So you have the acting Attorney General of the United States of America, who is being briefed by Robert Mueller, the only person on the planet that gets briefed by Robert Mueller. And of course, he has to answer questions on his way out the door about, did you brief Bill Barr? Did you brief the president? How much information did you give to Rudy Giuliani or any other? Did you talk to John Kelly about it? You know, this kind of thing. These are inbounds questions. And this man shows up with all this snark. And then, you're right, the Republicans, it's like the Democrats ask a tough question. And then, you know, the Republicans come and throw him a life preserver.
Right, and get in the way. And I don't understand. You know, he kept, well, the whole thing is, Mr. Chairman, your 5 minutes is up. That's the same fucking bullshit that Kavanaugh did with, was it Amy Klobuchar or whoever was questioning him at the time about the...
Yeah, do you have a drinking problem? Yeah, when Amy Klobuchar asked him if he had a drinking problem, which was the subject of an inquiry about his fitness to be a Supreme Court justice, he said, he certainly does. He turned to her and he goes, do you have a drinking problem? And she said, you know, my father is an alcoholic. He's a recovered alcoholic. So
that's how I know one when I see one, right?
Right, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, this was bizarro world. And every hearing that we're going to have, just so you know, because now the Democrats control the House, Adam Schiff has said that he is starting the investigations. And the only reason why the investigations haven't started prior to this is because of the shutdown. We had 35 days of a shutdown, which accomplished something for Trump, and that was a delay in the oversight hearings, either at the Intelligence Committee or the transmission of congressional testimony given by Roger Stone and Jr. and Bannon and, you know, you name it, all the people that came, you know, were called. Those transcripts couldn't be transmitted to Mueller for his use until now because they shut down the government, right? And so now you have the Intelligence Committee under Schiff starting to begin the investigations there. And this today over here was the Judiciary Committee, obviously. And then you're going to have the Oversight Committee with Elijah Cummings. And it's all going to start. So I want you to know this is only going to get worse and more snarky and more combative and uglier. Now, you compare that with their arch enemy, Hillary Clinton, who sat in front of that Benghazi hearing after 2 years of investigation that found nothing. All right. And she sat there for 11 hours answering all of their questions. And the only snark that came from her was in like the 10th hour where they asked her about security again, like for the billionth time. And she said, what difference does it make? Oh, that went viral. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.